Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is a book summary of Quiet. The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. How much do you value silence, and how much do you think it's a privilege? Is there ever a reason why some people find something exhausting while finding it exhilarating? Listening and acknowledging the power and indomitable strength of introverts is the essence of quiet. Introvert author Susan Cain believes that the world is geared toward extroverts, which means that introverts are often overlooked. As a natural introvert, Cain faced this dilemma growing up. For her, the world wanted her to be louder than she preferred. Remembering the endless team activities and cheering at school camp, she wishes she could have just stayed at home and read a book. Introverts make up 1 in every 3 of your friends. Did you know this? Alternatively, you may be the group's introvert. You know someone who is an introvert, even if you are not one yourself. Today, we have a bias toward the extrovert. This is a problem when it comes to forming better relationships with coworkers, friends, or family members. As a result, there are 2 issues. To begin, we undervalue the quiet strength of introverts, and to compound matters, we cater to the needs of those who thrive in social situations. In today's society, introverts are rarely given the time or consideration they deserve. Consequently, being an introvert in a world that doesn't necessarily cater to them can often be difficult. While introverts' quiet strength is needed in the world, this summary of personality types provides a great deal of insight. It's critical to recognize the things that fuel our passions and the things that could drain our reserves. Both introverts and extroverts have unique strengths, but each of these personalities requires a different level of support. To thrive, rather than just survive, we need to know our personality type. Introverts and extroverts are 2 sides of the same coin, according to Carl Jung, the psychologist who coined the terms for his theories on personality. Introversion and extroversion are 2 extremes on a continuum, and we all fall somewhere in the middle. We can't tell where we belong on the introvert-extrovert spectrum based on how outgoing or reserved we think we are. Personality isn't as simple as you might think. An extrovert, for example, can be an introvert at the same time, and vice versa. It's possible that he's just shy at work, but when he's with his closest friends, he can talk for hours. When the party is over, the social butterfly may appear outgoing, but she may actually be an introvert who longs for peace and quiet during her downtime. If a leader is in the spotlight, it's not because she enjoys it, but because she feels compelled to do what she thinks is right. There's a big difference in how we respond to stimuli, and that includes social stimuli. As a general rule, extroverts seek out stimulation, while introverts prefer quieter environments. When they need to recharge, introverts gravitate toward safe, quieter environments. It's not so much that introverts are quiet as it is that their biology lays the foundation for how we experience the world. Our biology is the foundation for how we experience the world. For clarity, consider the situation where life hands us lemons. To begin, the biological makeup of an extrovert differs from that of an introvert, as we'll demonstrate with some lemons. Isaac dropped lemon juice on the tongues of both extrovert and introvert subjects in 1967. Extroverts immediately produced more saliva when the saliva production was measured. As this study demonstrates, introverts are more sensitive to sensory stimuli such as sight, sound, and smell. An introvert's nervous system is more sensitive than the nervous system of the average person, according to this finding. Their reactions to their surroundings are more intense as a result. At 4 months, it's a trait that can be passed down genetically, and can be diagnosed. An introverted personality is more likely to develop in a baby who has heightened sensitivity to environmental cues. Knowing the right amount of stimulation that feeds your nature, on the other hand, will not only help you cope, but it will also help you to flourish. Problem is, we live in a culture that values extroversion over introversion. It's easy to excite the extrovert but exhaust the introvert in open-plan offices, bright lights, crowded malls, or rowdy parties. An inherent cultural bias can be seen in this situation. It's common for introverts to feel like they've stepped outside of their comfort zone. An extrovert-friendly culture can make introverts feel uncomfortable in the world. Schools and workplaces tend to favor the extrovert's need for stimulation, resulting in this sense of dissatisfaction. This can be seen in a typical classroom setting. There will be a lot of visual stimulation, as well as desks arranged in pods and an emphasis on group work and group activities. Similar to open-plan living spaces, offices often have no partitions or doors, exposing everyone to outside noise and the gaze of their coworkers at all times. In our culture, being an extrovert is seen as a virtue. Self-help books teach us how to win friends and influence people. Teachers, on the other hand, tend to believe that the ideal student is the outgoing, more outspoken one. In the workplace, introverts are frequently overlooked for leadership roles. To put it another way, introverts are undervalued to the point where we are losing out on a lot. Introverts have a lower threshold for self-questioning than extroverts. Introverts need to look at the world around them more, rather than questioning themselves. In order to avoid socializing with his peers, there was once a shy boy who would run home from school as soon as the bell rang. In later years, he continued to be an introverted and reserved person. Instead of seeing his shyness as a flaw, he viewed it as a positive quality that made him stand out from the crowd. The combination of these characteristics and his inherent desire to resist oppression led him to take a stand against it. It wasn't until later that he began to speak out on behalf of others. As the saying goes, a gentle way of shaking the world can change the world. That was Mahatma Gandhi's motto. After looking at the U.S., Rosa Parks quietly refused to leave her seat on the bus back in 1955. The Montgomery bus boycott was sparked by her defiant refusal to abide by racial segregation laws. Both of these individuals, despite their courage and strength, describe themselves as reserved, soft-spoken, and even shy. Many important discoveries and artistic achievements have been made thanks to quiet thinkers. Consequently, we must inquire as to what extent institutions of higher learning and workplaces can accommodate both types of individuals. A peep into the working environment. Researchers have found that leaders with greater charisma earn more money than those with less charisma. It's a myth that more charisma equals better performance. In some situations, introverts outperform extroverts, according to a study of 128 major company CEOs. Introverts excel at leading proactive employees because they are more willing to implement their ideas and listen to them thoroughly. For this reason, we must lower our volume in the workplace because there is no correlation between being a great talker and having a great idea. And the dynamic duo approach is chosen by really successful companies. Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, a reclusive introvert, was more than a match for Steve Jobs as an innovator. Wozniak developed the first personal computer while working alone in a cubicle at Hewlett-Packard. Because of his shyness, he believes he would not be as accomplished as he is today. Extroverts, on the other hand, excel at presenting ideas to strangers, enjoy new social networking events, and make critical connections. Jobs is an excellent example of an extrovert. In the end, risk-taking is at the core of the extrovert's personality. They are better risk assessors because introverts have a better ability to detect and respond to danger. They're more patient, pay attention, and pay close attention to the smallest of details. What we need to keep in mind is how well introverts and extroverts work together on teams. Using each other's strengths and weaknesses can help them succeed. The onus is on us to recognize and play to our strengths, and the onus is on businesses to figure out how to make use of these assets effectively. In addition, if creativity and innovation are required, then perhaps it is time to follow the rules of the introvert, because many creative people have a serious streak of introversion. Take Charles Darwin's long walks in the woods, for example, which he used for introspective reflection. In order to complete her final Harry Potter novel on her own, J.K. Rowling booked herself into a hotel. When the author of Dr. Seuss was alone in a back room of his house, he came up with these amazing stories. Fearing children might meet him and be disappointed by his reserved nature, like the characters he wrote about. Introverts excel at working alone, focusing on a single task at a time, and possessing an exceptional ability to concentrate. This type of in-depth work, done by oneself, has been shown in research to be necessary for eliciting creative and innovative thinking. It's a challenge because today's workplace is geared toward interruptions and interaction. An open-plan work environment is common in today's modern office. The same can't be said for group projects. There is evidence to suggest that when people are alone, they generate more and better ideas. As a rule of thumb, larger groups perform worse than smaller ones. We also miss out on great ideas from introverts because extroverts are more likely to think aloud and speak up. Thus, the extrovert's views are given the most attention. We are less able to generate new ideas when we are surrounded by people who think and act like us. As a result, it may be worthwhile to give the introverts more room to think and solve problems. You may have to break some rules in order to maximize your creativity. So, How do we create environments where people of different temperaments can flourish? Work environments that allow for remote working should be created first. Before meetings and brainstorming, people should be allowed to come up with ideas on their own. Students who are more reserved can benefit from innovative teaching methods that encourage them to speak up without fear of ridicule. As a college student, Brianna had to deal with a lot of group work. Students in Brianna's class were required to sit in a circle and discuss the day's topic after their teacher gave them 3 sticks. You could only throw a stick away if you had something to say about it. The presence of leftover sticks at the end of class was a sure sign of poor marks. Extroverts received higher grades than introverts because they were more confident and outgoing. A nightmare for introverts like Brianna, this experience was also extremely counterproductive. An overabundance of extroverted students engaged in meaningless discussion rather than engaging in thoughtful dialogue because they simply wanted to talk. As Cain puts it, think, pair, and share is a good strategy to employ. Using this method is a little different, but it's beneficial because it gives you time to ponder your thoughts. It's hoped that students will be given time to think and then be paired up to discuss their thoughts and ideas. Students can come back together as a class to discuss their findings in greater detail. Introverts benefit from this approach because it creates a more welcoming environment. So that's it. Whatever your personality type is, we all need to assess our differences and work together in a way that benefits everyone. A cultural bias toward extroverts is unfair, and the world has been designed to meet their needs. It's important to figure out where we and those around us fall on the spectrum of values. It is only after that we can start changing our surroundings in order to bring out the best in ourselves and those around us. To be an introvert isn't a sign of weakness. In fact, Susan Cain argues that introverts have a special set of strengths, as well as their own set of challenges and advantages. The final message is that introverts need to reclaim their authority. When it comes to how we perform best, we should all be aware that there is no one-size-fits-all approach to this. Consider whether you're being allowed to perform at your highest level in both your personal and professional life. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.